You've already built success, but now you're wondering, what's next? Here's something fascinating. A positive mindset on aging can add up to 7.5 years to your life. And that's according to Dr. Becca Levy of Yale University. That means how you think about aging can literally shape how long and how well you live. I was recently at a conference and met an awesome gentleman named Chip Conley, who's leading a global movement to help people in midlife find renewed purpose and happiness. He said something that really stuck with me. Midlife isn't a crisis, it's a chrysalis. So today we're diving into the three biggest upsides of midlife and beyond, and three powerful questions to help you proactively plan for your life and for meaning, energy, and connection. Because midlife isn't about retiring from something, it's about reimagining what you're retiring to. Stay tuned, you're not going to want to miss this.
Welcome into Legacy Beyond Wealth. I am Ben George with Rob Shelton, founder of Axio Wealth Management. Got a good show for you today and a good conversation too, Rob. And one, that honestly I've been thinking about, right? Being in my 40s, I mean, it's pretty interesting in life how quickly your mindset does shift, right? And you have this whole different perspective of time. When you're 20s and 30s, you got the whole life ahead of you. When you're in your 40s, you start thinking, okay, what is my purpose? What is that next step going to be? So I'm looking forward to the wisdom that you provide today.
Well, I appreciate that, Ben. I was recently sitting down with a client, and he's now in his early 80s. And he told me, he said, Rob, I used to, when I was younger, double my age and think about what life would be like at that stage in life. And he said, at some point, I started doubling my age and realizing that's not viable anymore. And so he said, I started just thinking 10 years out from now. And he's going, I'm now getting to the point where I got to change that mindset. And so, as we talk about midlife and creating that life of significance, that life that you really want to be able to live, it comes down to some of the most important assets you can have, and that's really time.
Yeah, so let's start with time because that is the most valuable asset and one we appreciate more and more as we get older. So, what's your perspective on time and the value that it holds?
As I talk with a lot of our wealthy clients that are out there, they talk about money, and no one likes to lose money or anything of that nature, but their most precious assets are time, because money is something that you tend to be able to earn back from or can come back from. But time, there's no way to recreate that. At least no one's found that way as of yet. And so, as clients have met that goal of having that financial freedom, we talk much more about, now it's not so much about accumulation of assets, but now it's more about allocation of time and looking at time more as like capital of how it's being spent. One of the questions we like to ask is, 10 years from now, what will you regret if you don't learn it today or do it now? And I think that really gets people to start to think and break out of that mindset a little bit. It reshapes your priorities and what you're focused on. And when we look at building a financial plan, one thing I would challenge people to do is look at what we call a 10-year reallocation plan, a way just not to have, your financial plan and your assets allocated into certain areas of investments, but how are you allocating your time and what is helping you live that best life and allocating those to your days?
Yeah, making sure you're getting the most out of your time gets more and more important every year, and really, it's part of having that healthy and wealthy lifestyle. I think moving forward, and you talk about longevity, and you talk about being happy and having a fulfilling life. Rob, I think you have to talk about relationships. Right now, you talk all the time about how that truly is one of the top forms of wealth.
Oh man, the older I get, the more true that statement becomes. And when you look at it, connection is really critical to happiness, and feeling connected. And I often hear many of my children's teachers talk about this at school, that in a world where we are so connected more than any other generation, we find loneliness to be a bigger issue. And think of all the technology devices we're connected to and things of that nature. So not just connection, but human connection, those meaningful relationships that are out there. And if I can share just a story real quick here, Ben, that came to mind. Had a client who had a sister that was extremely wealthy, and she had very little happiness in her life because of the relationships that she had. Unfortunately, this lady ended up committing suicide. And when you looked at it, she had all the financial freedom to live whatever life she wanted to. But at the end of the day, that's not what brought her happiness. She didn't have the emotional capital of what that human connection, that those relationships can have. So I want to mention this. This is the second question I think you should really ask yourself. How would your relationships improve if you thought of friendships as a practice? And if we think of them more about something that just don't take care of themselves, but something you actually have to give attention to and reinvestment into. And one thing Chip challenged us too is he said, Rob, pull out your phone right now. I want you to find a friend you haven't talked to in a long time. I want you to text them and set up a lunch meeting. So I took him up on that and I did it. It's a friend from high school I hadn't seen in probably 10 years. And man, that was awesome to be able to have that break, to be able to go to lunch with him and rekindle that relationship, and taught me a sincere lesson that we have to invest in our relationships for them to be able to continue to flourish and provide that emotional payback that we all need in our lives.
I might take you up on that as well, Rob, and try to do that along the way. And it's up another time to meet. I mean, I think that's so important to build those relationships and to be and practice those things, right? I think that's to your point. I
Yeah.
mean, we life goes by, and all of a sudden you realize, oh, I hadn't talked to somebody in 5 years or something, and there's a lot of excuses you can make, but taking those active steps to change that.
Yeah, and when you look at it and you nurture these genuine connections, you start to realize that people just aren't they're much more important than portfolios, and the richest people often put most of their value in those relationships and connections. And it's unfortunate life has a way of having us just get in these ruts that we go through and forget about maybe some of those most important things. And it really is about time and allocating that and making sure we're nurturing those relationships.
Are you ready to unlock the freedom to live your best life? Schedule your no-cost 60-minute discovery meeting with our team today. During this session, we'll take the time to understand your family's story and financial dreams. Together, we'll craft a personalized roadmap designed to help you achieve your goals. Let's explore how we can unlock the freedom for you and your family to thrive. Just click the link in the description of today's show to get started.
All right, well, let's shift to that third upside of midlife. And I know you talk about it being wisdom, Rob, and I think it's important to differentiate wisdom from knowledge, right?
It is, and wisdom is transformational. Knowledge is information, and so when you look at that, here's the third question that I think people ought to be able to ask themselves: what are three pieces of advice you'd offer someone younger, and what experiences taught you those lessons? And I think about midlife, and I remember growing up in this industry, being the youngest guy in the room and everyone coming to me and saying, "Oh, you're starting off early. This is great. This is going to be awesome for you." I got started late in my career, whatever that might be. And then I started going to conferences and looking around the room, and now I'm kind of starting to be one of the old guys.
Hmm.
And it was a mind shift change for me a little bit. And I looked for that purpose. And in the last, I would say, 4 years, I've really focused on how to give back to the industry, that wisdom that I've gained over 20 years of experience to be able to help people with. And meeting with younger advisors first coming out is absolutely fulfilling for me to be able to help be that mentor to them. I'm so grateful for those that had mentored me in my life. And what we do is once a quarter, we partner with the local school, university, and in their financial planning program, we'll bring 12 students in and buy lunch for them and just talk to them about questions they have. And this really is what we would call wisdom fingerprints, things that you can leave to have an impact that will have a compounding effect long after my life is gone. And so, Axio, I think that's really important for us to be able to look at is not just others in our industry, but our kids and those most important relationships. How do we help them understand some of the lessons we've learned and benefit from?
I love that, and really, that is a true meaning of legacy beyond wealth, right? I mean, it's leaving that wisdom onto the next generation, or imparting that wisdom on somebody, and actually making a difference beyond what your bank account says. So I love that, and these are three upsides that will really kind of help you maybe shift your perspective here, Rob. But give us kind of some closing thoughts.
Yeah, so if we look at it, maybe those three things we focused on was time, making sure you're allocating it. It's one of your most precious things of capital that you have. connection, making sure you're nurturing those most important relationships. And last but not least, knowing that your wisdom, your life has meaning to it. And it really is your truest legacies. You kind of help pass that on to somebody else. And so when you approach midlife with this type of curiosity and not fear, you're really not just talking about financial freedom anymore. We're really talking about freedom with meaning.
I love that. Well, if this episode resonates with you at all, share it with someone in your life that maybe is kind of reaching this kind of midlife point, and help maybe change their view moving forward, and really see what some of the upsides are. Now, it's a great time of life, right? I mean, it's all about the way you view it and how what kind of difference you make on people moving forward. So get in touch with Rob too if you have any questions. Want to sit down with him and talk more about that legacy beyond wealth and how Axio can help elevate your financial future with their tailored approach and their collaborative approach to planning. So Rob, I appreciate you always sharing these takeaways from these events and these trips that you take. I think it's pretty insightful, and I'm glad we could help some people out today.
Thanks, Ben.